What is up, guys? Wrestling Premier is here. When I was about to make this video, I just realized I can't really make a whole video on if he used the McMahons for power, because it's kind of clear that he won more titles due to the fact that he's married to Stephanie. It's obvious. Well, he would have won that many titles had he not been related to them, and it's clear. But how many world titles Triple H would have won? Well, he's a 14-time champion, right? Well, I think he would have had a bit less. Not much, though, because by WrestleMania 18, he was a 5-time champion, and he wasn't really married to Stephanie at that point. I don't think those had to do with his McMahon influence, because when he returned in 2002, MSG went insane, and he was clearly the best choice to win the Royal Rumble. Now, he obviously used his power to win more titles, and to be honest, we can't really make a full video on that. He's been happily married for like 17 years, and I don't think he was intending on marrying Stephanie for power. It's genuine for me, although you could say that he broke up with Chyna to be with Stephanie, and that's a different story in itself. Now, about this video, I was actually intending on talking about Triple H and if he actually buried these guys. I just mistitled the video idea, and yeah. Now, before I get into this video, let me just tell you that the next video is either going to be WrestleMania 17 or Edge and Christian. I'm still going to think about which one I should do, and right after those two, I'm going to make a Saturday night's main event video and the 2004 draft. Like, I just realized that the 2004 draft happened on March 22nd, 2004, and we're nearing that date, so expect that video to come soon too. Alright, let's get into it. Now, for like Triple H burying talent, like this is where it starts. He was handed the world title on September 2nd, 2002, and he wasn't even supposed to win the title because there was some other plans for a certain someone to win the title. In an interview, a former WWE writer revealed the plans for the World Championship in 2002. The plan, coming out of a lot of meetings, was for Rob Van Dam to become the first world champion, Brock to be the first WWE champion, and for both of them to carry those titles as the new faces of these new brands. You know, kind of this fresh brand of fresh champions to carry those titles for at least the next 6 to 7 months. Damn, that would have completely changed the complexion of WWE. RVD, probably the most likable guy in WWE at the time, was on the brink of capturing the world championship, but it was ultimately Vince who had second thoughts. I heard someone got in his ear saying that RVD wasn't ready for it. Now, RVD had this to say about Triple H. People talk about that, and you watch him and you see him dominating, and then if you figure he's in the decision-making position and he's the one dominating, then of course, you're going to say, hey, he's beating everyone. And then when you have your favorites that you would rather see come up and you see him stomping them down, I think everyone gets a right to their opinion just from observing. Anyways, RVD lost to Triple H at Unforgiven, and he wouldn't regain that kind of momentum he had up until 2006. Next up is Kane. Now, Kane wasn't really buried, but that storyline, that feud, like, really hurt him. Like, he could have been a bigger star, maybe, but ultimately, it was Triple H's shovel who once again prevailed. That feud, like, it was so horrible, and I don't even want to talk about it. They had a good match at No Mercy, though. The next guy that got buried was Steiner. Now, this guy has so much disdain and hatred for Triple H. Steiner had this to say when WWE asked him to take a drug test. I told WWE to have Triple H pick me up in a limo, then we could go test together, and they never asked again. I don't think they tested anyone during that time, but this is still a funny story regardless. For this one, I don't think Triple H buried him. Why? Well, Steiner at this point had yet to recover from his injury, and during the build-up to the Royal Rumble, he kicked Triple H's ass. Now, yes, Steiner should have been utilized better, but to me, this wasn't really a burial. Steiner hit a million belly-to-bellies in that match, and the fans were booing him, and he was botching moves, and both men were injured, so it made for a horrendous matchup. In a very recent interview, Steiner had this to say about Triple H. Same thing went wrong for me that went wrong for everyone else that went from WCW. Look what he did. Triple H beat everybody. Kevin Nash went in, look what he did. He had a DQ and then he got beat. Sting got treated worse. He had one match with him and he was done. That's the thing when a guy's a mark and he wants to beat everyone, and he was a legitimate... I mean, Wikipedia don't lie. I mean, seriously, look what he's done. Nothing. Then he got into professional wrestling, and that was his time to shine. Of course, it does help being the boss's daughter, so you know, he took advantage of everything that he could, and he beat everyone for WCW. Why? They treated everyone like, and we're all in the same business. You know, wrestling is a small knit community. You know, it's a brotherhood. But they're gonna treat us bad because we wrestled for somebody else? I mean, it made no sense, but now it's biting them in the ass. They would kill for half the ratings that they had when we had the Monday Night Wars. Look at them. It's biting them in the ass, and they got what they deserve. Now, there's always a 141% and 2/3 chance of Steiner trashing Triple H in an interview. On the other side, you could say, though, that Triple H made Steiner look bad because before this feud, Steiner returned in MSG to a loud crowd, and he had momentum, and after this, he was tested. Also, there are rumors that Triple H was sandbagging. There's both sides to the story. For me personally, I don't think Triple H really buried him because he was made to look good in the build-up to the matchup. I do see why some think he did. Next up is Booker T. Oh my god, this was the most painfully obvious one. When you cut racist promos and stuff like that and beat the challenger, then that's clearly a burial. Triple H was offering dollar bills for Booker to go get him a towel, and in the end, Triple H retains the title. Like, come on. And to add insult to injury, Triple H pedigreed Booker and waited 23 seconds before covering him for the victory. Now, I know I already used a lot of quotes in this video, but I apologize for it, but I just need to use some more. I'm trying to give you guys a perspective of the competitors, and it makes sense to me for this video. Booker had this to say. Honestly, even with my 35 championships, it's never really been about titles for me. The fans were disappointed, but I didn't go back to my room upset that I didn't win. For me, it's always been about performing. People really wanted me to win, and it was a great match. We left everything in the ring. I can always respect Triple H that he was able to take it just as much as he could dish it out. Me not winning, I would not take that as a black mark on my career or anything like that. A lot of people were disappointed. A lot of office people came up to me and said that you should have won. But it just wasn't meant for me that night, and we move on. Now, the story basically ended with Triple H proving himself right and claiming that Booker wasn't good enough to beat him. He never got his comeuppance for all the racist things he said, and this storyline was basically useless. So, for this one, this is number 1 on my list of the worst burials Triple H has ever done. It's on the top. Next up is Goldberg. Once again, this is a bit mixed. On one hand, Triple H actually buried Goldberg. On another, WWE mishandled Goldberg, because when he debuted the night after WrestleMania 19, Goldberg quickly dismantled The Rock and Chris Jericho, and this was leading to the money match against Triple H at SummerSlam, where Goldberg was going to win the title. This is where Goldberg's momentum went to a screeching halt. Now, some think Triple H tried politicking for this one, and it may be true, but what I found out is that Triple H suffered an injury and he couldn't go on an Australian tour. Vince asked Goldberg to go and he turned it down. Now, rumor has it that this is why Goldberg lost the title, although some other people are saying that Triple H actually was lobbying for himself to retain the title and lose it the next month. I'm going to go with the Australian tour thing. Why? Well, Goldberg had the fans on his side at this point, and Triple H was going to recover from a groin injury, so why wouldn't he drop the title? I mean, he really wasn't able to compete, and that's why the chamber match was really short. By the time he won the title at Unforgiven, it didn't feel as good as it was supposed to be. For this one, I'd say it's WWE mishandling Goldberg because it won the title at Unforgiven anyways. But I wouldn't put it past Triple H to say, maybe Goldberg isn't really ready, or maybe we should leave this for next month where Goldberg will face me one-on-one. Who knows? Next up is Chris Benoit. Oh, who am I kidding? Benoit at this point was the only guy to benefit from the Reign of Terror. Triple H from there wouldn't really bury a star up until Unforgiven when he buried Randy Orton, a guy who he mentored. Now, for this one, you could say that Orton wasn't really a good face, but to me, I thought it was kind of dumb to have him drop the title on his first pay-per-view as champ. At least let him hold it for a bit longer. And the guy he lost it to was obviously Triple H. Come to think of it, there wasn't really another top heel on Raw other than Batista or Kane, that's all. I know they were planning long-term, but this face turn and loss hurt Randy Orton. So for this one, it's once again both WWE and Triple H, although you could say Orton was immature outside of the ring. After this, there wasn't really a burial from Triple H. As a matter of fact, he started to put over talent such as Batista and John Cena. And the Reign of Terror was finally over, but Triple H occasionally buried other talent. I didn't mention everyone, but this is one that I've got to mention. This one involves talent that he wasn't even feuding with. On the September 17th, 2007 episode of Raw, Paul London and Brian Kendrick came out to help Triple H fend off Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch. Right after this, Triple H randomly pedigreed them. He's trying to act like Stone Cold Steve Austin. This was just basically unnecessary, and for some reason, London and Kendrick weren't the same following this. I don't get why they weren't as heavily featured on Raw as they were previously. After 2010, it seemed like Triple H's days of burying talent was over. He had put over Sheamus on his way out, although he'd return the favor about a year later. But in September of 2011, Triple H made his return to the ring at Night of Champions when he faced the most popular wrestler in the company, CM Punk. This was basically when CM Punk was on a roll. This was right after the summer of Punk. It was off the charts. The problem with this is the fact that they just booked Triple H to beat Punk for basically no reason. Tell me why they should have had Triple H beat CM Punk. It wasn't like he was going to turn heel and feud with him and a few months later he'd return the favor. He just beat him and he went back to retirement. In his very famous interview with Colt Cabana, CM Punk had this to say about his final meeting with Vince and Triple H. Now, the reason why I added this is because it does mention his feud with Triple H in 2011. And I quote, "I said, it boggles my mind how Daniel Bryan has now figured his way into the main event plans for WrestleMania because this is his year. Just like 3 years ago was my year when I was white hot, just like he is now. And what did you do? You fed me to this guy and I pointed right at Hunter." Vince said that this was the concussion talking and he couldn't believe that I was saying that. It is a main event. you're wrestling Triple H. I turned to Hunter and said, with all due respect, I don't need to wrestle you. You need to wrestle me. I do not want to wrestle you. I seriously resent you for not putting me over 3 years ago when you should have. That would have been best for business, but you had to come in and squash it. Then I had to lose to R-Truth and Miz. Like, it didn't make any business sense then. It doesn't make any business sense now. I bet you Punk is still pissed off at that loss. Like, it hurt him a bit. To me, I didn't really think it hurt him a lot because he got a year-long title reign anyways. What I could take away from this video is that Triple H's influence affected the booking. It's very clear. I mean, he's married to the boss's daughter. Every time he won a title or a feud, that would be mentioned. As for how his career would be if he didn't marry Stephanie, it'd still be one of the best, but I don't think he would have been a 14-time champion. I'd say 8 or 9 sounds realistic because he was one of the top 3 stars of the Attitude Era. I do think it would have been likely that he feuded with guys like RVD and Chris Jericho for the world titles. And that's it for this video. Now, Triple H is one of my all-time favorites, right? But some of these burials were kind of unnecessary and they were bad for business because the Reign of Terror, like, he halted Rob Van Dam's momentum, he halted Kane's momentum, he halted Booker T's momentum, he might have halted Scott Steiner's momentum. Goldberg was hurt after his feud with him, and the Reign of Terror affected a lot of people in a bad way. That's what I'm saying. Nonetheless, it's a good thing that he puts over talent nowadays like Daniel Bryan, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns. You know, that's the positive in this. I think he realizes that now he shouldn't be doing this kind of stuff, and he's contributing to the main roster nowadays. That's it for this video. Make sure you hit a spine buster on the like button, and perhaps a pedigree on the subscribe button. Peace. I'm out.